Hello Exiles, you're watching Altec 2K Gaming, and in this one we're going to talk all about Summon Holy Relic and its transfigured version, Summon Holy Relic of Conviction. These skills at first glance look pretty similar, but they're actually like chalk and cheese when you come to play them. Both of these are minion skills that follow you around really closely. They're always around your character. This skill can be incredibly confusing when you first pick it up, because unless you're attacking, it actually does nothing, it just sits there dormant. And that's because the minions trigger a spell each time you hit someone with an attack. This spell causes a large amount of physical damage to enemies in the vicinity. But in the case of the standard version, it also heals allies within the radius. And with a high degree of quality, this can get up to like 200 regen per second to your character, and even more than that for the minions around you. I first saw this skill like 2 leagues ago. I think it was Captain Lance made a build around it, and it looked so good, and I tried it out. I wasn't a massive fan, it felt clunky, but it did have a lot of promise. Now if you like a skill like Blade Vortex, then I think you'll like Summon Holy Relic. It's very similar in that it's basically an area of effect around your character that just pulses killing things. When the Transfigured gems first came out in 3.23, I was desperate to know what the new Holy Relic was like. I really wanted to try it again. And I was very disappointed that they didn't actually release one. But then this league came around and the new one was out. Whilst being the same skill, it is so different to the original as I mentioned. Here are the highlights of the key differences. The standard version allows you to have one of these as standard. The Conviction version allows 2 as standard. You can get these up by +1 using a specific helmet, which we'll talk about later. What makes the skills play so differently is that the standard version pulses around itself. The Conviction version causes its pulse around a nearby enemy instead. This tends to be the thing closest to you, which means it's actually really defensive. Anything comes close to you, it gets spammed. Now the bonus to both of these minions is because they stay so close to you all the time, any buffs that you have on generosity will always affect them, no matter where they're firing from. But with the new version of the skill, you don't need to run around to kill things. You can stand still and you'll just have circles radiating around you, killing everything. These overlap and do huge damage. The last key difference is the effect of quality. On the standard version, it increases the buff effect, which means the heal. The alternative version, however, doesn't have the heal, and so it can't scale the buff effect. Instead, it scales the cooldown reduction, which means the Nova spell that the Holy Relic fires is triggered so much more frequently. We don't actually know how much damage the spell does on the Transfigured version because they removed it from the gem, but it feels so much more powerful than the original, especially when you scale its cooldown. Now something important to note about the cooldown is you only get benefits at certain stages because these correspond with the number of times that they can trigger per second, and these just happen to be at a cooldown reduction of 2, 14, 30, 52 and 82. The easiest way to scale this is with quality, and I have mine all the way up at 82. It may be possible to get even higher than this, but that will cost an absolute bomb. And the difference between 52 and 82 is at 52 you're hitting 5 times a second, and at 82 you're hitting 6 times a second. Bear in mind this is per minion, and we have 3 of them. So that's 18 times a second you will hit if you have 82% cooldown reduction, which is an equivalent to 82% quality. And getting 82% cooldown reduction is not as difficult as it sounds if you use something like Diala's Malefaction. Using a Diala's with an enhanced support and an empower support in red sockets and a Summon Holy Relic of Conviction in a green socket will give you a total quality of 62% off the item and the enhanced support, and an extra 20 from the gem, taking you all the way up to 82%, which is an increased cooldown reduction of 82%. Note that the empower and the enhance only need to be level 3s to achieve this, and so they are failed corruptions and will be fairly cheap. The Diala's Malefaction is an absolute must for this, but as we can get cheap 6 links this league, this isn't going to be a problem to afford. The most important item hands down though is Joffrey's Crest. This is a couple of chaos. It's a fairly good helmet that gives armor, energy shield, all elemental resistances and chaos resistance, but the most important role is +1 to maximum number of summoned holy relics. It's a really good helmet. Now, as for the trigger gem for this skill, which needs to be an attack, we will use a low damage attack, and that's so we can run Fizz Reflex maps without any issue. We are going to use Lancing Steel of Spraying. This is PoE's answer to a machine railgun. It is absolutely insane the number of projectiles you fire from this thing. Add returning projectiles to it, and they hit the enemy twice, which means we can fire twice. we will never struggle to get to the cap as long as we've got a decent amount of attack speed on our main weapon. My main weapon happens to be a sword because it has higher base attack damage, and then I've got 24% increased attack damage on it. The last item I would pick up for this is a replica Dragon's Fang that gives +3 quality to all Holy Relic gems. But this is extortionately expensive because all the big players are playing it. But I will be getting one if I can afford one before the end of the league. Frankly, this skill is broken as hell and will more than likely get a nerf next league. If it doesn't, however, I will be league starting it because it's absolutely phenomenal and it is so fun to play. The clear is absolutely phenomenal for a minion build. It's just so good. Now, if anyone is still playing this league and would like to try it out in the death throes of the days left, I would highly recommend it. You can find my version of the build in the description below. It's very close to Balamage's, except I've gone much cheaper. That said, this build cannot be classed as budget at this point. I've spent somewhere in the order of 15 divines on it, but you can play it much cheaper. The other difference is I use Spectres instead of Animate Guardian. It's just far cheaper and you don't lose them occasionally. If you do want to know how to make a really cheap 6-link Dialas, then watch this video next. It'll be showing top left. And with that, thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.